Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Medicine 3.0. This is your podcast for precision medicine, AI in medicine, and optimal health. This week, Twila Ruefer. She is a physical therapist, ex-Navy, now working on a cash pay longevity practice in Virginia Beach. She has a great story, and she also gives some very practical advice. I hope you enjoy it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, Twila, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jared. So happy to be here.
All right, well, I'm very excited to have you here, and I want you to start out by telling us how you got where you're at, knowing what you know.
Okay. It's a fun story, actually. I joined the Navy right out of high school. So I'm 18, joined the Navy, have no idea what I want to do. I did really well in the ASVAB, so they just opened the door. What would you like to do? And I answered anything but healthcare, which is fun and ironic now. So they offered a job called Advanced Computers and Electronics. And I was like, ooh, let's do that. Sounds fancy, right? Turns out it was not my jam. I did not, electronics was not the path I was supposed to take. But that was my job either way. So when I got to my first command, I became very involved in other things that I could do that I did enjoy. So we call them collateral duties. So I got involved in command fitness activities. I became a command fitness leader, coordinating physical fitness for for people that were stationed where I was. And then that developed my love for fitness. And then from there, my second duty station, I was the limited duty coordinator. What that is somebody who coordinates care for people who have been injured, for injured sailors. So there came about the correlation between fitness and rehab. I was like, okay, is this my passion? Let's explore PT school. So after 9 years, I got out of the Navy and we were stationed in San Diego at the time. And I went to San Diego State and got my undergrad in kinesiology. And at that time, I worked as a personal trainer and got my yoga teacher certification. And as a personal trainer, it confirmed my desire even more to go to PT school because people can come in and for personal training, but they're hurt and I didn't know what to do. So I was like, all right, this confirms it. We're going to PT school. So I graduated from SDSU, and then my husband, who is still currently active duty, got orders to Millington, Tennessee. Lucky for me, that is very close to Memphis, Tennessee, and that's where the University of Tennessee has their health science center. So I went to school there and got my doctorate in physical therapy. So that is how I came to be a physical therapist. And then that journey has actually taken me on a really fun route too, because when I graduated from physical therapy school, I was like, okay, I am going to heal the world. I was ready to go, and quickly learned that pain is not as simple as it seems. It is multifactorial. It is complex. And I I wanted to keep diving deeper into ways to actually help people long term. So that's why I've really gotten involved in more like a longevity medicine type movement. So I'm really excited about it. There's so much potential as far as that goes to like truly make a difference in people's lives. So I'm just recently opened up a business that we actually called Longevity Institute of Virginia so that we can make a bigger difference rather than just chasing pain.
That's really exciting. It's my nephew's JAG in the Navy, and he's in San Diego right now and was in Tennessee right before that. So
oh, cool. Yeah.
He's kind of hitting similar spots as you. He spent a couple years in Japan, and it's awesome. It's interesting. The last person that I interviewed, she works with firefighters.
Oh, cool.
And so it's interesting to think about the different people that choose to serve. She was a firefighter for 20 years first. You were in the Navy for 9 years first. And I think it takes, obviously, and interestingly, both of you females in very kind of male dominated areas. And I think it takes a special person to kind of leave that kind of work and want to serve, want to continue to serve. And I'm curious, going back for you, and you went directly into the Navy, how have you thought about like how you spend your time and what you work on and how you focus your life and how you serve? And I'll kind of get to why later. I'm kind of asking
Okay.
that question, but I think it's interesting that you chose, these different service, and any work is service, but you specifically have chosen kind of service roles.
Right. Oh, good question. Over those years, I really just developed a desire to make a big difference and like actually make a real difference, right? Um, and having time with people to actually listen to them. We're all just so busy. The world is just, we're all like running around, like from sporting events and kids and life and work, and to actually have time to sit down and listen to people so you can hear their story is just really been a driving force for me, because I I have a guiding principle of like relationships matter is one of the most important ones to me. I want to build relationships with people, build know, like, trust. And I feel like that's why I'm here. I'm here to actually like just sit down and like hear people and help them through whatever it is that they have going on, whether it's physical therapy related, whether it's mental health related, nutrition, like, because there's all these different factors that come into play. And with the things I've done so far with, being in the military, being a physical therapist, personal trainer, yoga, all these different places, everybody has something going on, right? Like you meet someone and maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they're not, but I always try to think about what they have going on in their life that I don't know about
Right.
and meet them there. Cause you never know if, someone's dog died that morning, they're just having a bad day or what. So I just always just really try to connect with people in order to make a difference in their day, even if it's just a smile at a total stranger or someone in a hotel we were at on vacation recently, and it was really busy. My kids, we got breakfast at the hotel lobby, and you could tell the manager's trying to help out and he's just cleaning tables and nobody's looking at him, nobody's saying anything. And I was just, hi, I was like, hi, how are you doing? I was like, I really like your tie and stuff. And his whole demeanor changed. I was just like, okay. And it's just being able to make a little positive difference in people's lives. It's so rewarding. And there's so many different opportunities to do that every day. So,
I love that. It's interesting that you picked out his tie. One of my tricks, and I'll share my trick, and now everybody's going to know my trick and think that I'm insincere. But like one of my tricks that I'll do to like connect with people is compliment them on clothing items, because that's like a simple thing. So shoes, often for both men and women, it'll be shoes, or for women, it'll be nails.
right.
And I think that there is something nice about just feeling seen. And I feel like by noticing a detail like that and complimenting somebody on that, they feel seen. And I think that in the world we live in, there is so much disconnection and so much a feeling of being anonymous and like I'm just a number, or I'm just a person on social media, or I'm just like part of this giant system that I'm not that important. And I think this brings us to like one of your passions that I'd love you to kind of explain how you ended up at this point and why you think about it the way you do. You kind of spoke a little bit about why you think about it. People have stories, you want to hear their stories, you want to connect with them. But the importance of like one-on-one time with somebody. Tell me how you ended up thinking like this is the key for me and that I'm going to focus on, and tell us why you use it, how you use it.
Okay. Love it. Yes. So again, we're building on the time theme here, because time is just, I'm a little obsessed. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a little obsessed with making the most of every moment, every day, right? Because time is finite. Time is our most precious commodity. And if someone is going to give me the gift of their time, I want to make the absolute most of it. Um, and I've been working in outpatient physical therapy for about 7 years. And in that field, in an insurance-based physical therapy clinic, it's typically productivity driven because of insurance reimbursements going down. So it's become more of a quantity over quality type setting. And as someone who is obsessed with time, it drove me crazy because I never had enough time with my patients. And circling back to what we talked about earlier, pain is multifactorial. Like if somebody's knee hurts, it's not just their knee. Like there are multiple things that are likely contributing to that. And I want to have time to dig into all of those factors. So I have left that type of setting, and now I've just created a clinic where I can spend a full hour one-on-one with people every time. And it's always me. It's always, so we can really work on those relationships. We talked earlier, relationships matter. We can build know, like, and trust. I can listen to people. I can hear their stories, because their stories are also a part of the things that have led up to whatever ailments, they're going through at that time. We really like to focus on the physical, spiritual, and mental, because all of those things are part of a person's pain, whether it's chronic, whether it's new. And so having time with people is so important to me, because I can spend quality time with them and truly get to the root cause of their pain, working through those, things that contribute to their pain. So,
Yeah, it's really interesting. In my own life, I've had these funny experiences. Like being an ER doctor, you have to create trust within seconds sometimes, right? Like somebody would roll into the trauma bay, be on a backboard. I'd look down in their eyes and say, you're going to hear a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of things going on. I'm going to be here by your side. If you need anything, raise your hand. I'm Dr. Pelo. Like I would try to get their trust really fast. But I believe that there is no shortcut to relationship and trust. Like there are things that make it happen faster. And I think the military, the ER, those are interesting places, boot camp. Like when you go through those kinds of experiences, there's trust built very quickly with a group of individuals. But I'd say for the most part, there is no shortcut. Like you have to spend time to build those relationships. So when somebody comes to see you, how do you kind of do that intake and start building that relationship of trust so that you can actually help them
right.
with different facets that you named?
Mm-hmm. So every person who comes in, their first session is what we call an initial evaluation. I call it the gathering of information day. So we've all been to that doctor's appointment where, you have this list of things you want to talk about, and you walk in and then the doctor's rushed and they have like 5 to 15 minutes with you, and they leave and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even ask the questions I wanted to ask. Right.
Yeah,
So in this type of setting, it's more about, okay, let's talk for a minute. I always just start, let's get to know each other a little bit to just establish some commonality there, help people relax, so they know we're not rushed. And then we, kind of take a deep dive into things that are causing their pain. We do full body movement analysis. We do postural analysis, overhead squat assessments, a whole, range of motion, strength, all that stuff to build a picture of all the different factors that could be contributing to their pain. And then we get hands-on treatment in to help alleviate some of whatever, muscle tension trigger points with dry needling. We do cupping. We do a lot of different modalities to help decrease pain on that first day. So it's nice to have a full hour because that's a lot to fit in.
Yeah.
And in 5 minutes, I just really, the most important for me thing on that day is to establish that relationship, because again, we have those guiding principles. Relationships matter. Consistency is key. And then mindset is everything. And if, number one, you got to have a good relationship so people trust you. So we talk a lot, get to know each other, dive into the things that are bothering them. And it might take me 30 minutes for somebody to remember that, they were in a car accident 10 years ago, so it's just beautiful to have the time to listen and work all those things out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your guiding principles, I love those 3 guiding principles. The consistency is key. I've interviewed a lot of trainers, people that work with professional athletes, and I'll often ask, like, what is the biggest thing? And they often say, if you want to see progress, it's about consistency, not perfection. Like everybody gets caught up on this idea of perfection. Like people, you see this like with the way they eat, the way they move, the way they exercise, like so many facets of life. And so as you try to teach these principles to your members who come in, what kinds of things do you talk through to try to teach these principles to them?
Mm. Well, we also like to bring in, and it goes hand in hand, longevity. We think of things as longevity pillars. And those, of course, are eat well, move often, prioritize sleep,
Mm-hmm.
have quality relationships, spend time with your loved ones, live with a purpose, stress reduction, right?
Yeah.
So all of those things can be a little overwhelming to people sometimes. So we try to break it down into simple things that they can incorporate into their daily life. And with those, guiding principles, the relationships matter, the consistency is key, and then mindset. We work little things in slowly throughout their sessions to where it's not stressful, I guess, and not like
Yeah.
making it seem like there's more things in life that they need to do, because we are all busy, like I'm a working mom, I have 2 kids, my husband's in the military, we move all the time, like I'm trying to start a new business. I get it. So I really try to meet people where they are at. Again, coming back to like, you never know what someone has going on in their life. So I try to make things like simple little nuggets that they can work in to be consistent. Small changes can make a big difference. So just try to break things down to basics with those longevity pillars and just a little bit at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The comment that you never know what's going on in somebody's life. I heard somebody once say, if you just assume that there is something going on in somebody's life, you're going to be right 70% of the time. And especially if they're coming to seek your help because they're in pain, it's probably much higher. It's interesting. I try to simplify things as much as I can. And like you, I have pillars, and I talk about people figuring out their own values that will drive their decisions. And the one that I've been using recently when talking about kind of longevity and health is that, to me, it kind of boils down to 2 things. And one is prevent disease, so don't die. And then the other is stay as strong and mobile as you can for as long as possible. And
Amen.
if you do those 2 things, then you'll have longevity. But what's difficult is, because it's simple, and this is why you need like drill down and have pillars, because it's simple but not easy for somebody to understand how to do it. And I really like that you said, like, you're going to step them through little by little to do this. And so how do you do that? Do you kind of have a kind of roadmap you'll put them on? Do you have a path that you'll guide them down? How do you kind of guide somebody down that progression?
Right. I wish I did. There's no 2 people who walk through my door ever the same. So it's very unique. And kind of coming back to those pillars, it's just all too often that people do one of those things really well and let everything else go. They're like, but I work out 6 days a week. How? Okay, well, let's talk about sleep. How much sleep do you get? Oh, like 4 or 5 hours. Okay. Okay. Well, let's talk about nutrition. How many vegetables do you eat? I don't eat vegetables, like it's all so, there's so much, but like it's so easy for them not to want to do all of it. So yes, it depends on where we start. So it depends on what we find in that gathering of information session. And again, just trying to make it more digestible for people. Small things, small increments. One of the ones I generally always hit on is sleep. I feel like nobody gets enough sleep. So if there's one thing, I think, like, it all starts with sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, everything else is going to suffer. So really try to focus on sleep first, and then we work in nutrition and other things as we go. But again, it's totally, each person is different. So however that person is presenting, we try to figure out what path is best for them. And that's the beautiful thing too about having that time with people. I feel like I have been told that I have good emotional intelligence, that I'm very good at reading people and knowing where they are. So I hope that's true, because that's basically how I am guided on what I do recommend people when, based on how I think they will respond.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like that answer is, like you said, no two people are the same. And so, and then your intuition guides you. What I would say on top of that is you can't have that intuition without expertise. And so the way that you're able to do that is because you've gained so much expertise over the years of, being a trainer and then doing your kinesiology and then being a PT for 7 or 8 years and then building this business. And obviously you've spent a lot of time going deep on not just biomechanics of movement and injury and those kinds of things, but really deep on health and wellness as well. And you can't have that intuition if you don't have that expertise. I mean, you can act like you do.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll see, I don't know, 20-year-old influencers on Instagram who are like, saying things that they've heard other people say. And I'm like, interesting. I doubt they're quite the expert that they think they are. Because it seems like the more I learn, the more I realize I still don't know as much as I would like to know.
Truly. One of the best things someone ever told me was that the day that you stop wanting or stop, the day you think you don't need to learn anymore is the day you need to stop being a medical health professional, because
Right?
there's always new stuff out there to learn. So it's exciting. It is.
It is. It is very exciting. How do you get enough sleep did you say you have 2 kids?
Yes. They're 11 and 4, and they're super cute.
I bet they're cute, but how do you get enough sleep? How do you take care of your own sleep?
Yeah, I get 7 to 8 hours every night. Thank goodness. I actually did not used to sleep well. I don't. That's come a long way. With my kids. Funny story. When I applied to PT school, I did not know I was pregnant. So I got accepted into PT school. I was like, I'm still going to go through the process. What if I don't get accepted? Well, I did get accepted. So my due date was literally about a month before PT school started. So I wrote the board. I was like, listen, I'm pregnant. Can I defer for a year? And they were like, we've never had anybody ask to do that. We have to vote on it. So they were like, they reviewed my record, sent me back. They were going to let you defer for a year. So I was like, oh, thank goodness. So I was absolutely determined to make sure that my kids were good sleepers, because I had a whole year to prepare. But my daughter was born, like the whole year, like, okay, I'm just so I read this book called Baby Wise, and it made a huge difference in my kids' life. Both my kids were great sleepers by like 3 to 4 months, sleeping through the night. Praise God, because obviously I had to start PT school when my daughter was a year old, and that's a 3-year program. And my husband was deployed for a good part of that. And so I really needed to have, the stability of a good night's sleep. So ever since that, I've really, focused on getting my kids to bed on time, make sure they get 10 plus hours of sleep, and then I can get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Yes.
I honestly, I probably slept better when I have little kids. I have teenagers now, and I want to be there when they want to talk. And they always want to talk at like 10:30 or 11 at night.
That is so true. Mine too. My 11-year-old. Yes. I'm like, you had all night to talk to me about this. That's so great.
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so somebody comes in, you do the intake, you do the plan making, and just for a little kind of reference setting, how long has the Longevity Institute been around?
For about 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we are brand new. I was like, let's do this. So yeah, we are very, very fresh.
I love it. So, so currently growing your business, and I'm assuming since you spend an hour with them, I'm assuming this is a cash pay. Like, there's no way insurance would cover.
Correct. Yeah, we are a cash-based physical therapy clinic, which I can go into why I did that if you like.
I'm happy to hear.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm a cash pay clinic as well. So
yes.
I'd love to hear why you made that choice.
Yeah. It's a great thing for both patients and therapists, because again, it's all going to come back to time. Working in a typical outpatient physical therapy clinic that is insurance based, again, productivity is the main focus there, getting more people through the door. I would see 20 plus patients a day and have about 15 minutes a person, just depending on, if there was 20 patients out there or 30, it just depended. And I have worked in a variety of settings. that was actually the very first place I worked straight out of PT school. And I was like, what did I get myself into? So, so I've worked at places where, like maybe 13 to 15 patients per day is average, but still you don't get much time with people at all to truly cause the change that I wanted to make. So I've kind of flipped the board essentially. So instead of billing through insurance, my patients pay cash, which allows me to spend time with them. But also, as a benefit, insurance typically wants to restrict treatment. Essentially, if someone comes to see me for knee pain, insurance is going to pay for me to treat their knee, which is very limiting because, again, we've already talked, like, it's multifactorial. I can connect knee to shoulder if I need to, like it can be that complicated. So that was frustrating with insurance. And then insurance also, I have been in a room with one of my favorite patients of all time and had shoulder surgery 6 weeks before, and insurance said, like, oh, she can move her arm, she's good to go. They denied more sessions and she's bawling and I'm hugging her. And that was actually the final straw for me. After that happened, I was like, okay, we have got to flip the switch. And there's actually a big movement going on right now in my field in general to open cash-based PT clinics so that we have the opportunity to spend more time with people. So I've joined that movement, which I'm very excited about. So it gives people a full hour with their therapist every time. They're not, pushed off to a different therapist that they don't know. They're not working with an exercise tech to take them through their exercises. We can treat holistically. We can treat all those different things that are contributing to their pain. The mind, all the mindset, the mental health, the full body nutrition, sleep, everything. We have time to do that. And we can essentially cause better change in a short amount of time. So in the setting, you're not going to PT 2 to 3 times a week and making $40 copays every time. You're just paying cash up front. You come one time a week. I get a full hour with you. So whoever you see gets a full hour so they can impact that change that we want to. And then I give a bill at the end, and then they can submit to insurance and get reimbursed based on their out-of-network benefit. So it's great for me because I can really make a difference. It's great for them because they can really get quality care that'll help make lasting improvements long-term instead of just treating not just the symptom. I want to treat the cause. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But interesting, you'll still give like a bill with CPT codes so they can submit.
Yeah.
That is a nice added benefit. We don't do that yet. I also, for our physical therapists locally, because I personally, anybody out there that doesn't have a physical therapist that they like and trust, I think that it's key to longevity. Like you have to keep moving, you have to be strong.
Yes.
And so, yeah, the PTs that we've used over the last few years have mostly been cash pay. For many of the reasons, like here's a great story. My wife, so every New Year's we do this Pelo family Olympics, and usually it's like the teenagers who have come up with the events. And so a couple years ago, my wife is leg wrestling myself and my son. My son's bigger than me. He's like 6'4", 240. And she's leg wrestling both of us, and we tear her glute medius, and which I felt really bad about. And it took like 6 months to rehab it, and yeah, we ended up, like, the best treatment we got was with a cash pay physical therapist who could spend, like you said, he wasn't limited to what insurance mandated or said that he had to do. He could spend the time and really help her heal. So I totally see that. One question I have for you is, okay, so somebody decides, I want to get out of pain, or I want to get in shape, or I want to live a long, healthy life. Why would they come see you rather than go to a trainer and a nutritionist and a health coach? Like, what is your skill set that you bring that you think is unique?
Right. I think with the education that we receive as physical therapists, it's kind of all those things you just listed, they're getting in one spot. So as far as our anatomy, physiology, education, is very, very in depth. And we get nutrition education. We have, well, not in PT school, but I do. So I try to offer all those things in one spot because it's going to come back to that busy lifestyle. My husband did his MBA through UNC last year, I think, and his business model was actually geared towards like what we want, what we're aiming to do with longevity. And he uses the avatar of a working mom with 3 kids. She has to be work by 8. She also needs to get to the gym, go to the chiro, go to her PT, and go grocery shopping. And then her daughter has softball practice at 6. So it's just too much. So that's why I think physical therapy is such a benefit, because you can get, well, just in general, you can get all those things in one place. You can get great work on your body mechanics, work on all those longevity pillars that we talked about earlier. And you save time. You're not going to a nutrition, you're not going to your health, your fitness trainer, you're not going to another, all these different places. We can provide a lot of quality care through a session with us.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things is I'm constantly looking for experts in different fields and trying to figure out like who are voices that I want to pull in. And so I've spent a lot of time talking to PhDs of sports medicine. And what's interesting, I think, in the skill set of a PT is you can be expert in movement, in exercise, but also in rehab. And I think that is one of the things that's missing from like if you were just working with a trainer or a sports medicine person. And so I think all the different tools that you're able to pull together is really unique and really great. When you recommend to people like you should read this book or listen to this podcast, what are your general recommendations that you will give people? And let's focus on, that's a very broad question because you could say, is it mental health or is it nutrition but let's just focus on, I want to live longer and be healthier. What would you point them towards?
Oh, well, one of the books that actually triggered me to actually take this route was I read the book Outlive by Peter Tia. That's a little heavy probably for most people.
It is.
There's a lot of really good information there. Oh goodness, it's so good. And then I'm trying to think of what I've actually been listening to your podcast. So I think that's hard to say. I've told a lot of people recently to listen to yours because I love your analogy, the car going over the cliff and how you're trying to put a fence up at the top of the cliff really aligns with like mine as well, because in a PT setting, I so often get people who are, there's a lot of things. There are layers and layers and layers of things that we have to get past in order to truly take care of their pain. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like Peter T uses like, I need to get upriver, right? Like that's how and I'm totally going to steal it. I've been stealing your fence at the top of the cliff. So just FYI. But all of those things are so true. Like we just need to get ahead of these things, like help, it's all becomes that educate, empower, and transform people to take control of their health. So as far as like book specific, I love the Outlive, but then Kelly Starrett just came out with a new book called Built to Move. And I love that one because he's done a really good job of just taking complicated things and making it simple. Like, can you sit down on the floor? Can you get up from the floor without using your hands, and like just really great tips. So I think that's a great place that most people can relate to that book. So that would probably be the best recommendation I have for right now.
It's a great book. I love his vital signs, and it's we actually keep it in front of our TV so that anytime we're watching the TV, like we'll pull it out and try to do the movements, the floor stretches. And
it's great.
So that's a great recommendation. So I want to ask you about the last piece of we've talked about a lot of the things you touch on, but one thing you mentioned is spirituality. And I don't think that, a lot of practitioners don't talk about that. You'll hear it kind of in passing. And so I'm curious how you work with your members on spirituality.
Right. It's, It is, that comes with the reading people as well. And one of my sisters actually, she was helping me with my website, and she recommended I take that off because she said you don't want to push people away. But what I want people to know is that spirituality is just, it's really about what works for you. Like, do you meditate? Do you do yoga? Do you go to church? Do you believe in God? Just, it's such an important part of our being, as long as people just have some sort of, it's such a good stress reduction too for mental health. So just try to encourage people whatever route they can go with their spirituality and mental health to help decrease their overall stress levels. So not trying to ever push anything on people, just help them to explore that area, because it's a piece of the puzzle. So yeah.
I mean, so most of the world has some sort of spiritual practice. And if we don't take into account how that frames how they see the world, how they interact with food or their body or exercise, like, I think it's a real miss on our part as practitioners to like say, leave this part outside of the discussion. And even on our own, like, I'm going to take this part of me and I'm going to leave it outside of the discussion and I'm not going to bring it in. I think is a mistake. And it does take practice to learn, like, how do I talk about my own spirituality and how do I talk about yours? And
right. Yeah.
that,
And that also differs person to person. So yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely a piece that we have to work into the program.
Yeah. There's a book by, I believe it's Arthur Brooks, that he just wrote with Oprah. And I think it was like How to Live a Good Life or something like that. And Arthur Brooks is a Harvard professor and he writes about happiness and how to be happy. And he says he writes about that because he's like not like naturally happy. And so he's been looking at it for years and years. And he talks about like spirituality as being one of those main things that he thinks is really important for happiness. And he defines it very similar to how you defined it. It doesn't necessarily mean a belief in God or a deity. It can mean anything, whether that is, I find spirituality in viewing the sunset, moment of awe. And what is so cool is you look at the science and moments of awe lower your blood pressure. So like sitting at the ocean and watching a sunrise or a sunset lowers your blood pressure. Just getting close to water lowers your blood pressure. And so, yeah, recognizing and finding those moments in our life and connecting with others, I think that's really important. So I totally understand the fear from your sister in saying you might offend people and this might not fit everyone, but I also think that it's really cool that you'll talk about it and work with people on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And I just wrote that. You said Arthur Brooks?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's Arthur. There's two Brooks. I think David Brooks and Arthur Brooks, and they both write books I like. So David Brooks just wrote a book called How to Know a Person, which is a great book on like how to connect with people and ask questions. And it's a really good book as well.
Awesome. I wrote both those down. Thank you.
Well, Twila, this has been a great discussion. I would love for people to know where to find you, where to learn more about you.
Of course. Yes. Our website is www.longevityvb.com. And then on Instagram, it's at longevityvb. And the VB is for Virginia Beach because we are here in Virginia Beach and we're going to stay here because my husband's been in the Navy for 24 years and we are tired of moving. So we're putting down roots and we're going to stay put. So Virginia Beach is going to be home to my family and my kiddos. So it's exciting.
Oh, that's so exciting. I actually really love Virginia Beach, even the boardwalk and all the corny stuff.
I know, right? Me too.
I think it's a great place.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Twila, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so excited to see you continue on your journey.
Yes, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Medicine 3.0. We make this podcast so that you know where to turn for good information on keeping you and your loved ones healthy. Feel free to check us out at bionichealth.com, where we can help you live a longer, happier life.